There are places where silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels heavy. Like the air remembers something and refuses to let it go. In Coquitlam, British Columbia, there's a place where thousands once lived, many against their will. A place that was meant to heal, but became known for something else entirely. And even now, long after it closed, people still hear them. Hi, I'm Asha, and yes, she's got spirits. And if you're here, chances are you've got spirits too. Each week we dive into true hauntings, real Canadian history, and the stories that refuse to stay buried. So dim the lights and let's get into it. Cheers! Riverview Hospital first opened in 1913, originally called Essendale. At the time, it was seen as revolutionary. A psychiatric facility built on hundreds of acres of land, surrounded by trees, mountains, and fresh air. The idea was simple: remove patients from crowded cities, give them space, nature, quiet, and maybe they would get better. But what started as hope slowly changed. By the 1950s, Riverview held over 4,000 patients. Too many. The system couldn't keep up. Staff were overwhelmed, resources were stretched thin, and patients became numbers. For many patients, Riverview wasn't temporary. It was permanent. Some were admitted for severe mental illness, others for things that today wouldn't require hospitalization at all. Depression, postpartum struggles, trauma, even behavior considered socially unacceptable at the time. Once admitted, leaving wasn't always guaranteed. Inside the wards, life was controlled. Strict routines, minimal privacy, limited contact with the outside world. Treatments were often aggressive: early electrotherapy, heavy sedation, experimental approaches that, at the time, were considered acceptable. But to the patients experiencing them, it was something else entirely. Something colder, something isolating. Beneath the buildings, there was another world, a network of underground tunnels. They connected the wards, allowing staff to move between buildings without being seen. Patients were transported through them. Supplies moved silently underground. And over time, those tunnels developed a reputation. Staff reported hearing whispers when no one else was there. Footsteps echoing with no visible source, and the overwhelming feeling that they weren't alone, even when they knew they should be. By the late 20th century, attitudes toward mental health began to shift. Riverview started to close its doors. Buildings were shut down. Patients were transferred. But something strange happened. Even as the hospital emptied, the activity didn't stop. In fact, many say it got worse. Security guards began reporting movement in empty wings, doors opening and closing on their own, lights turning on in buildings with no power. And then there were the voices, not loud, not screaming, just talking, soft, distant, indistinct, like conversations happening just out of reach. Some guards said they heard their names being called. Others described hearing multiple voices at once, as if the wards were still full. One guard reported something he couldn't explain. While doing rounds in an abandoned building, he heard footsteps behind him. Slow, matching his pace. He stopped. The footsteps stopped. He walked again. They followed. When he turned around, there was no one there. Even today, people driving past Riverview report seeing something unsettling. Figures in the windows. Not clearly, not long enough to fully understand what they're seeing, but enough to know something was there. Shadows where there shouldn't be movement, especially in buildings that are completely empty. As parts of Riverview were abandoned urban explorers began entering the buildings. Many went in expecting nothing more than an eerie atmosphere, but some left with stories they couldn't explain. Cameras malfunctioning, batteries draining suddenly, cold spots in specific rooms, and that same feeling reported over and over again, being watched. One explorer described walking through a ward when he heard a door slam behind him. When he turned around, every door in the hallway was still open, except one. Places like Riverview aren't just buildings. They hold something else. Memories, emotion, energy. Thousands of lives passed through those halls. People were isolated. People who felt forgotten. People who never left. And whether you believe in ghosts or not, it's hard to ignore the pattern. The sounds. The sightings. The feeling that something remains. Today, Riverview still stands. Some buildings have been repurposed. Others remained abandoned, but the stories haven't faded. Because late at night, when everything is still, some say you can still hear it. Footsteps in empty halls. Whispers in the dark. And voices that were never meant to be heard again. Maybe it's not that these places are haunted. Maybe they were never truly emptied. And maybe some voices don't need bodies to be heard. If you made it this far, you already know some stories don't end just because the doors close. Welcome back anytime to She's Got Spirits. I'll see you later. Cheers.